After receiving an inheritance of $200,000 from my late grandfather, I was walking home from the attorney's office with one thought: to surprise my husband. But as I approached the door, I heard him and his sister talking about me. Hearing this made me pale. I was sitting in the notary's waiting room, nervously fiddling with my passport. My heart was pounding like a trapped bird, though there seemed to be no reason for fear. Just the money, $200,000, an astronomical sum for me, a nurse with a modest salary. The $200,000 left to me by Grandpa Jack. Grandpa Jack came to mind. His gentle voice, his wrinkled face, his kind eyes, always looking at me with a special warmth. He didn't spoil me with expensive gifts, but rather with attention and involvement. As a child, he would spend hours reading me stories, crafting wooden toys, teaching me to identify birds by their songs. And then, as I grew up, he always took an interest in my affairs, listened to my complaints about hard work, encouraged me, and told me I was strong and would definitely manage. And now, this inheritance, unexpected, like a greeting from a happier past life. The attorney, a gaunt woman in a strict suit, finally emerged from the office and gestured for me to enter. The procedure to process the documents didn't take much time. I mechanically signed papers, affixed stamps, and answered questions. Fragments of memories about my grandfather swirled in my head, mixing with thoughts on how to handle this money. When everything was done, the notary handed me the documents. "Here," she said. "Everything is ready. The money will soon be deposited into your account." I took the documents, thanked her, and stepped outside. The autumn air felt especially fresh and cool. I took a deep breath, trying to calm the trembling in my knees. $200,000 isn't just money, it's an opportunity, a chance to take a short break from the endless race, patch up holes in the family budget, maybe even buy something long desired. I also dreamed of a small vacation, at least for a week, to escape the town, go to the ocean coast, bask in the sun, forget about sleepless nights at the hospital, about constantly dissatisfied patients, about household problems. I imagined telling Ben everything. He was also having a tough time now, working 2 jobs just to make ends meet. He would surely be glad. Together, we would decide how best to use the money. I smiled. Here was a reason to organize a little celebration tonight, buy a bottle of wine, cook something delicious. I was already anticipating how Ben would hug me and thank me for everything. It wasn't far to walk home. I walked slowly, breathing in the fresh air and enjoying the first rays of autumn's sun. Plans, dreams, hopes were building in my head. Suddenly, it seemed like life was getting better, that all the bad things were left behind. Approaching the door, I heard muffled voices coming from inside the apartment. At first, I didn't pay attention. Maybe Ben had come home early from work and Jenny had stopped by. But something in those voices made me wary, a strange intonation, as if someone was hiding something. I stopped at the door and put my ear to it. The voices became distinguishable. It was Ben and Jenny.
"Well, what do you think? Will she agree to give up the money?"
Ben was saying. "Of course she will," Jenny replied. "Where will she go? You're her husband. Tell her the money is needed for a joint venture, for the family business, and she'll hand it over." "I just don't understand," Ben continued. "Why did Grandpa leave her the money? Didn't he have anyone else to leave it to? Me, for instance. I'm her husband. I should be controlling the family budget." "You know," Jenny said, "she's his granddaughter. He always loved her more, saw her as his favorite. And the money, it's not just hers. It's your shared money because she's married.
Exactly,
Ben picked up.
it's shared, so it belongs to me too. Otherwise, she'll start playing the benefactor and keep it all for herself.
I stood there, thunderstruck. The words stabbed into my heart like knives. Give up the money. Not just hers, but shared money. It belongs to me too. Could it all be true? Did Ben and Jenny really see me as a naive fool they could manipulate? Had they only stayed with me for the money from the start? My breath hitched, an emptiness formed in my head. All dreams, hopes, plans, all crumbled to dust like a house of cards. Instead of joy and anticipation, only pain and disappointment.
Well, now she's a rich lady with a whole $200K,
Ben was saying, and there was an unpleasant predatory note in his voice I'd never noticed before. Or perhaps I just hadn't wanted to notice.
But Margaret is kind. She won't resist for long,
Jenny responded with a light laugh. You know how I dream of having my own nail salon, rent, equipment. You understand? She won't mind helping the family. I felt nausea rising to my throat. Jenny's business. How many times had I heard these talks about a salon, about dreams that couldn't become reality due to lack of capital? And now, this opportunity arose, and they were planning to exploit it like brazen parasites without asking my opinion.
Of course she won't mind,
Ben drawled smugly.
We'll explain to her that it's for a shared future.
Jenny snickered. You're smart, Ben, as long as it all works, because I'm tired of having no money, and here's such a windfall. I leaned against the wall, trying to steady the shake in my knees. I had always considered Ben and Jenny my family, people I could trust. I shared my joys and sorrows with them, supported them in tough times, and they, behind my back, were scheming, plotting to take my last money. I took a deep breath, trying to gather my thoughts. I didn't know what to do next. Confront them? Pretend I hadn't heard anything and see what happens, or just walk away, leaving them with their plans. I straightened up, wiped the tears from my eyes, and banged the door to let them know. Ben and Jenny were sitting in the kitchen, drinking tea and chatting animatedly. Seeing me, they stopped talking and looked at me with forced smiles.
Margaret, you're home already,
Ben exclaimed, trying to infuse his voice with a casual tone.
Jenny and I were just having tea, discussing various things.
I entered the kitchen, trying not to reveal my emotions. I set my bag on the floor and sat at the table.
Yes, I'm home,
I replied calmly.
What are you discussing?
Oh, nothing special, Jenny answered evasively, avoiding my gaze. Ben just came up with some ideas. Ben winked at Jenny and turned to me.
We were thinking about how to best manage your inheritance. After all, it's essentially money for the future, for our family. We need to carefully plan it to avoid going bust.
I stayed silent, observing them. I could see their nervousness, how they were trying to hide their deceit. The hypocrisy made me feel sick. And what ideas do you have? I asked, striving to keep my voice even and calm.
Well, Jenny has a great idea about a nail salon,
Ben started, and I felt the anger tightening within me.
She needs startup capital to start her business. We could help her, give her part of your inheritance. After all, it's a future investment in our family.
I looked at Jenny, who sat with her eyes lowered, pretending to be embarrassed.
And what do you think, Jenny? Do you really believe I should give you part of my money?
Jenny raised her eyes to meet mine with a guilty expression. Well, Margaret, I understand it's your money, and you can do what you want with it. But I really dream of my own salon, and if you helped me, I'd be very grateful. I was silent, pondering their words. I knew they were lying, that they were trying to deceive me, but I wanted to give them a chance, wanted to see how far they were willing to go in their lies. "I'll think about it," I finally said. "I need time to consider everything." Ben and Jenny exchanged glances, and I realized they hadn't expected that response. They thought I'd immediately agree to give them the money, that I wouldn't resist.
"Of course, Margaret. Take your time,"
Ben said, hiding his disappointment.
"We're not rushing you. The main thing is that you make the right decision, a decision that will benefit our family."
I stood up from the table and went to my room. I needed to be alone to think everything over and make a decision. I knew my life would never be the same again. I could no longer trust Ben and Jenny. I would have to care for myself and my future independently. Once in my room, I leaned against the door and closed my eyes. Fragments of conversations, words full of lies and hypocrisy, spun in my head. I felt betrayed and deceived, but at the same time, I felt a new strength, an inner confidence that I could handle whatever awaited me. I would no longer be naive and trusting. I would learn to see people for what they really were, learn to protect myself and my interests, and I would prove to Ben and Jenny that they were wrong to think they could deceive and use me. I opened my eyes and looked at my reflection in the mirror. There were no more tears and confusion in my eyes. Instead, there burned a fire of determination and confidence. I knew that a challenging path lay ahead, but I was ready for it. I was ready to fight for my happiness and freedom. Ben, as if nothing had happened, greeted me with dinner. The usual peck on the cheek, the customary questions about my day at the hospital. I replied mechanically, the lump in my throat making it hard to speak freely. I watched him, his movements, the way he served himself food. Everything now seemed fake, staged. Every word, every gesture. After dinner, as we settled in front of the TV, Ben casually brought up the topic of money.
"So, Margaret, how's it going with the inheritance?"
I felt a cold chill run through me. Here it starts. I tried to maintain a calm demeanor.
"It's fine. I've taken care of everything."
Ben noticeably brightened up.
"Great. So maybe we should invest somewhere? There are so many opportunities right now."
I remained silent, feeling repulsed by his tone, by this sugary interest that I hadn't noticed before or had chosen to ignore. "I haven't decided yet," I finally responded, trying to speak as calmly as I could.
"I'm still thinking."
Ben frowned.
"Thinking? What's there to think about? Money needs to work, Margaret. Keeping it lying around is stupid."
He moved closer to me on the couch, took my hand in his. I felt goosebumps, not from tenderness, but from disgust.
"You see, Jenny's at a point where financial support would really help her start her business,"
he continued. I pulled my hand away.
"So, you're suggesting I give part of my money to your sister for her business?"
Ben tried to smile, but irritation was evident in his eyes.
"Not give, invest. It's an investment in the future. If she succeeds, we'll all benefit."
"And if it doesn't work out?" I asked sharply.
"What then?"
Ben shrugged it off. "Come on, why think negatively? Jenny's got a good head on her shoulders. She's planned everything out. She just needs startup capital, and you have the opportunity to help her." At that moment, something inside me snapped. All my doubts, hopes, attempts to justify his behavior, they all crumbled to dust. I looked at Ben and saw a stranger, greedy and calculating, ready to use me for his own purposes. "No, Ben," I said firmly. "I'm not ready to share. This is my money, and I'll decide how to use it." Ben jumped up from the couch.
What do you mean, not ready? Are you greedy now? Have you forgotten who helped you when you had problems? Forgotten all I've done for you?
I stood up to face him. I haven't forgotten anything, Ben. I remember everything, and I'm grateful for the help. But that doesn't mean I should just hand over my money to you.
You don't need it anyway, Ben shouted. You're just a nurse working for peanuts, and Jenny, she's got talent and prospects. You should think about the family, Margaret. About the family.
The family? I repeated bitterly. You call this a family? You and your sister dividing my money behind my back, thinking you can fool me? Ben fell silent, red-faced with anger. He clearly didn't expect me to react this way. You were eavesdropping back then? He hissed. I didn't answer. I just looked at him, and the pain and disappointment in my gaze were so intense that Ben turned away. Yes, I overheard, I finally said. And I heard enough to understand what kind of person you are. He tried to say something, to justify himself, but I stopped him with a gesture. Enough, Ben. No more lies. I know everything. I walked to the window and looked out at the small town's nightlights twinkling in the distance, like little beacons of hope. But this hope was no longer connected to Ben. It was linked to myself, my future, my independence. You know, Ben, I said quietly, without turning around, I always thought we were partners, that we were building our life together, but now I realize you're a consumer, not a partner. Ben remained silent. He stood in the middle of the room, confused and angry. He had lost control of the situation, and it infuriated him. I turned to him. I no longer want to live in this lie. I left the room, leaving him alone. For the first time in a long while, I felt free. The fear of the unknown was there, but it was nothing compared to the relief of being free from the burden of lies and betrayal. That night, I couldn't sleep for a long time. I lay in bed thinking about what lay ahead. I knew it would be tough, but I was ready for the challenges, because now I had a goal, to rebuild my life on honest and fair foundations, and I knew I could do it. The morning greeted me with a cold autumn rain. I got out of bed and walked to the window. Drops trickled down the glass like tears, but there was no room for tears in my heart anymore. There was only determination and hope. A thought of Grandpa Jack flashed through my mind. I remembered his kind eyes, his wise advice. He always believed in me, even when I didn't believe in myself. And now, standing on the brink of a new life, I felt his support. Thank you, Grandpa, I whispered. I won't let you down. For a week, I lived as if in a dream. I went to work, took care of patients, performed my duties automatically, but my thoughts were far away, in the apartment where I no longer felt at home. Ben, as if sensing something was wrong, became more attentive, even caring. He brought me coffee in bed, asked about my health, inquired about my day. But I wasn't fooled. Behind this show of care, I saw only the fear of losing a source of enrichment. I didn't argue, didn't stage any dramas. I just observed as the remnants of my illusions crumbled. Every affectionate word from Ben, every touch, made me feel repulsed. I wanted to scream, run, disappear, but I held on. I knew I had to be strong, think everything through, and act correctly. In the evenings, when Ben fell asleep, I quietly got up and went about my business. I packed my things, not everything, just the essentials: clothes, documents, photographs. I transferred money from my account to a new one. I studied information about divorce, property rights and how to protect my interests. I was scared. Scared to be alone. Scared to start from scratch. Scared to face the unknown. But the fear didn't paralyze me. Instead, it gave me strength. I knew I had to escape from this web of lies and hypocrisy to rebuild my life from the ground up, on my own terms. My grandparents' house stood empty after their passing. I hesitated to go there. Too many memories, too much pain. But now, in this difficult situation, the house seemed like a safe haven, a quiet harbor where I could heal my wounds and find peace. One morning, when Ben left for work, I called a moving truck. I quickly gathered the remaining things, loaded them into the vehicle, and left. I didn't leave a note, didn't call Ben. I simply disappeared. The house greeted me with silence and the scent of dust. Everything was just as I remembered. Old furniture, yellowed walls, faded photographs on the walls. It was here that my childhood unfolded, where I felt safe and loved. I opened windows to let fresh air in. I looked around and realized a lot of work lay ahead. The house needed repairs, cleaning, new furniture. But the prospect didn't scare me. On the contrary, I felt a surge of energy and enthusiasm. I knew I could do everything, transform this neglected place into a cozy home, my own world. First, I hired a team of workers. I ordered new flooring, paint, new plumbing. I wanted it to be bright, clean, and comfortable here. I didn't skimp on materials. I wanted everything done well and to last for years. While the renovation was underway, I dealt with divorce paperwork. I found a good lawyer who helped me draft the application and protect my interests. I didn't want anything from Ben. I needed just one thing: freedom. The renovation took several weeks. During this time, I managed to organize the house, buy new furniture, hang photographs on the walls. I created an atmosphere of warmth and comfort, a place where I felt good and at peace. When the renovation was complete, I threw myself a little celebration. I bought a bottle of wine, lit some candles, and sat down at the table. I looked around and smiled, feeling happy and free. I got a part-time job at a private clinic. The work was tough, but it brought me satisfaction. I felt needed and useful. I helped people, alleviated their suffering, gave them hope. Over time, I grew accustomed to my new life. I learned to deal with all hardships, learned to enjoy little things, learned to cherish my freedom, and no longer thought of Ben and Jenny. They disappeared from my life like a bad dream. One day, Jenny called. She begged for forgiveness, said she and Ben made a mistake, regretted their actions deeply. I listened in silence, then simply hung up. There was nothing left to say to these people. They betrayed me, deceived me, trampled my feelings. I wanted no part of them. I no longer trusted people. I became cautious and suspicious, but at the same time, I didn't lose my kindness and compassion. I continued to help those in need, continued to give my love and care. One evening, sitting in the kitchen drinking tea, I reflected on my life and realized that Ben and Jenny's betrayal had been a lesson for me. It taught me to value myself, taught me to be strong and independent, taught me not to blindly trust people. I looked at a photograph of Grandpa Jack on the table, smiled, and whispered, "Thank you, Grandpa. You helped me find myself." I felt a surge of gratitude towards my grandfather. I realized that his inheritance was not only material, but spiritual. He left me not only money, but also strength, wisdom, and faith in myself. I got up from the table and walked to the window. Not revenge, but silence and order, my personal victory. I understood that the most important thing was not to retaliate against my offenders, but to build my life in such a way that they regret their actions. I wanted to be happy, successful, and independent, and I wanted to prove to them that they were wrong, that they couldn't break me. Did you like the story? Write your opinion in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next interesting story. See you tomorrow.